Greetings, class. So today I'm going to be showing you how to solve the two-step trigonometric equations. But before I can show you how to do them, I first have to show you how to identify them, right? So notice this is the first problem. Now, unlike our previous problems, let's compare it with this one right here. Notice that in this case, the cosine has no other value accompanying it. It's just telling us that the cosine of this angle, whatever it is, must be 0. In contrast, we see here that now we have that 10 times the sine, and we're going to add to that value 5 must be equal to 0. Okay, so we're going to do two-step trigonometric equations whenever we see our trigonometric equation being accompanied by more numbers or expressions. All right? So, in this problem, we went directly into finding the angles, which were for 0 were 90 and 270 degrees for cosine specifically. However, because we don't, in this case, we don't have the trigonometric equation solved, we first have to take this 10 and this 5 outside of this side of the equation. All right, that's what it says here. Before we look for the angle using the unit circle, as we usually do, we first have to make sure the trigonometric function is alone. So first we take this 5 and we move it over to this side. It used to be positive, now it's negative. All right? And then we get rid of the 10. So this 10 is multiplying the sign. Therefore, we have to make the inverse function, which is division, the inverse operation, sorry. So we divide by 10 on both sides, and then we simplify. Negative 5 over 10 must be equal to negative 1/2. So the sine of 2x plus 5p divided by 3 must be equal to negative 1/2. Now we can use the usual steps. You see, so now we see here it looks exactly the same as this other function. The cosine must be equal to 0. In this case, the sine must be equal to negative 1/2. Right? So what are the angles that yield us this result? Well, now we use the unit circle. And then notice we don't touch the argument. In this whole steps, we don't touch the argument. Remember, the argument is the number within the function. So according to a unit circle, the angles where the sine is negative 1/2 are 210 and 330. And we convert them to radians by multiplying by pi divided by 180. So we have these two values, 7 pi divided by 6 and 11 pi divided by 6. All right? So this is all, the only new thing that we are seeing is these steps right here. Everything else is exactly as we have done before. So now that we have our two radian angles, we move over to the next step. Notice that because this is negative, it's why we choose the 210 and 330. Okay. Now, the final steps, like I said, things that we have already done before. We take the argument, 2x plus 5 pi divided by 3, right? The original argument, the one that was from the very beginning all the way up to the end, it's the exact same thing. 2x plus 5 pi divided by 3 must be equal to 7 pi divided by 6. We solve, multiplying this side by 3. Right, so we simplify 3 divided by 6, se va el 3, and we have 2. All right, so 2x plus 5 pi must be equal to 7 pi divided by 2. That's what we have here. We want to have x alone, so we take the 5 pi to the other side of the equation. And because we have to subtract fractions, the denominator has to be the same one. So we multiply 5 times 2, right? So it's divided by 2. 2x must be equal to 7 pi divided by 2 minus, because we move it over the other side of the equation, 10 pi divided by 2, which is the exact same thing as 5 pi. We subtract, 7 minus 10 must be equal to negative 3. And what we're left with so far is that 2x must be equal to negative 3 pi divided by 2. We solve for x, dividing by 2, and 3 pi divided by 2 divided by 2 once again must be equal to negative 3 pi divided by 4. And that is our first value of x, but it's not the only one. Now finally, we do the exact same thing with 11 pi. So the first few steps are the same. We take the 3, we multiply it to the other side, we simplify 11 pi divided by 2, see the exact same result except with 11 instead of 7. Then we take the 5 pi, we move it to the other side, once again 10 pi divided by 2, and we subtract, and what we have is pi divided by 2. But we still need to find x, not 2x, so we divide by 2 yet again, and we're left with x2 is equal to pi 4th. Alright, so this is the explanation on how to solve these problems. Hopefully you guys can understand it, and I will give you problems soon enough. Take care.